I'm here to speak on the discrimination in the town of Kirksville. Uh, I came to this town about 9 or so months ago under the impression that I was going to go to Truman University, and I've completed my first year there, and in doing so, I've met quite a few different people, quite a few different types of people. This town that I live in now, being Kirksville, is quite a bit larger than the one that I came from. The diversity here is refreshing because we live in a world where there's not just one type of people in any sense. There's not one race, there's not one creed, there's not just one religion. We have all these beautiful different types of people with wonderful things to bring to the table. It seems unfair to be able to fire someone on a difference that one person may disagree with. The Bible has specific parts that say that homosexuality is a sin, but nowhere in there does it ever say that they shouldn't be able to work. What I'm trying to argue the point is that if Kirksville is the town where people make the difference, then we shouldn't be able to fire someone on a difference that doesn't really have anything to do with their aptitude to complete a job. I work in Kirksville and I'm gay, but that doesn't mean anything to my job because it doesn't matter. But if one of my bosses were to find out or think that I'm gay and fire me, I feel like that would be a gross injustice, especially in America where we're supposed to be the land of the free. In the land of the free, that doesn't mean that you can be discriminated against for something that, whether you agree with it or not, is largely out of the control of the public. Firing a homosexual won't have anything to do with their sexuality. It won't change them, and it won't make them think that they need to change. It'll just hurt them, and it'll make the business that they were fired from less applicable for the duty that they complete. We need to really think about why we would fire someone for being gay, because that doesn't have anything to do with whether they can complete the job or not, which is why we hire someone in the first place. If they have something that makes them unqualified for the job, by all means fire them, but don't fire them because you think that they're gay or because they are. 50 years ago, it was legal to fire someone because of their race. We look back at that now and we realize that just doesn't make sense. That has nothing to do with whether a person can complete a job or even get married. But in this town, we have to argue the point that it's not right to fire someone for being gay. In the Bible, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. I don't think you can love your neighbor and want them to be fired just for being different. I don't think that proves any type of message. And as Kirksvillians, we're supposed to care about everybody in the town. It's the town where the people make the difference, and the name comes from the city of churches. We're supposed to be understanding and loving to everyone. I'm a Christian also, so I know the Bible. And we said in the prayer that God's love can be shown. I don't think it would be very Christian to show love to anyone by firing them for a difference that they have. You wouldn't fire someone for being Muslim or for being Hindu or Jewish. You wouldn't fire someone for being black, Chinese, Russian. You wouldn't fire anyone for those reasons because we understand that that doesn't have anything to do with their applicability. So we need to understand that sexuality also has nothing to do with it. Also, Kirksville has a chance here to rise above the towns around us and from many of the towns in our area in the Midwest. The Employee Non-Discrimination Act has been passed through the state representatives and it's been passed through the nation. So it's now under the debate of the Senate. It was passed with a 15-7 vote. That being quite a good margin of victory for us, we understand that we can make a difference here and we can rise to the occasion far before the country, or we can stand by and let the country decide what we should do and then be behind the times. We can be a pillar of light for the people around us, and we can be a place where people can come to find happiness and solace and understanding instead of judgment and discrimination. I feel like we have a really good chance to do this kind of thing in this town, so why not take it? We have the chance to show people that we do make the difference, that we care about the people that live here, that we want the people to live here. Firing someone for a difference isn't going to spread that message.
I spent 40 years with the Department of Conservation. I've been retired for about 15 years. Most of that time was spent here in Kirksville as the conservation agent for Adair County. I'm a gay person. I give you that background to illustrate that we are all sorts. And being in public service that long, I know that people speak very well of Kirksville. It's a progressive community. I can tell you firsthand, for instance, that because of the way this city is, you've got the finest conservation department, office, and installation in the state of Missouri. The city looks good, but dang it, what you all did doesn't make us look good. It's going to be dang hard for me to explain to somebody that what you did is actually true. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Henley, and I've been living in Kirksville for 10 years, and I agree with loving people, just like this gentleman said. I think that's the right thing to do. Obviously, it was God told us to do. He commanded us to do this. 10 years in this community. In the last 5 years, I've been a business owner in this community. I've serviced commercial. I've serviced residential. I've worked with people that are homosexuals or not homosexuals. Never had any of this affect anything in our business, in our relationship, at all. In all the years I've worked in Kirksville as a serviceman, I've worked here for 10 years. Never had any issues with anybody because of their gender or whatever it was. And so I'm looking at this situation thinking, well, why are we trying to change something when there's no problem? I don't see a problem in this community where you have businesses and people being fired because of their homosexuality. I've never seen that. I haven't seen it. I haven't heard about it at the college. I haven't heard about my business. I haven't heard it in the retail business where I do tons of work at. So we're trying to deal with an issue that we don't even have here. So as a citizen here, as a father and a husband, as a community man here, I don't know why we're even voting on this problem, this situation. I don't see a major issue here. We don't have it at a state level. We don't have it at a federal level, and we don't even have a problem here with this. We're trying to vote on something that we don't have a problem with. Thank you.
My name's Matthew McCauley. John was right. I don't believe that we've seen a lot of problem here in the Kirksville area with this very matter. However, across the state we have seen it. A piece of ordinance like this would help prevent things that's happened in Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, Jeff City. We're talking about our neighbors, not but a few hours away from us. This issue goes above and beyond the gay rights. It is much stronger, much more powerful than that. I'm here trying to protect my family, my wife, my child. Not that either one of those individuals are gay. My child's straight, my wife's straight, obviously. But I would like you guys to take this opportunity one more time, revisit it, take one more hard look at it, and realize what you're doing is anti-discrimination, not just gay rights. Thank you.
Greg Richter. This just takes 3 minutes. I teach linguistics at Truman State University, and I wanted to say that many of us are not in agreement with the decision. We hope that the constructive discussion will continue. But particular versions of religion need not play such a central role in the discussion as they did 2 weeks ago. The sacred texts of all societies were written in specific historical cultural contexts, and this is also true of each book of the Bible. 2 weeks ago, we heard many well-intended views on what's important in the Bible, including the views of council members. However, we need to admit that we all pick and choose. No one wants to recreate the Hebrew culture of 3,000 years ago. If we did, we would make sure never to wear fabrics of different types together. We would ostracize ourselves from society for the whole day if we had walked into a moldy room. There is so much emphasis on moldy rooms in Leviticus, yet we no longer take this seriously. And Leviticus expressly forbids us to borrow or loan money at interest. It might be interesting for some of the banks in Kirksville to try that for a while. Most significantly, if we recreated that society, we would still be accepting and promoting slavery. Nor can we recreate first century Greco-Roman Christianity. If we did, we would take Paul's injunctions from 1 Corinthians seriously. Women should be silent during church. They are not permitted to speak. Let a woman learn in silence. in all subjection. Again, if we recreated that society, women would not be voting, and slavery would flourish. Clearly, though, people do pick and choose, often based on the local culture. But I believe we have been given a brain to think about the issues clearly. This is not 3,000 years ago. This is not 2,000 years ago. This is the 21st century. We live in a country with the stated goal of separation of church and state, and with freedom to act on the local level. The great social movements in U.S. history have always started on the local level. And let me assure you, there is anti-LGBT rhetoric in Kirksville. I hear it, it is real, it is there. For the city to remain officially silent sends the wrong message. To remain silent is to condone the rhetoric. We should be at the forefront with Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, and other jurisdictions who have recently passed such ordinances. We should not be mired in the 1950s. In the early 1960s, rocks were thrown at African American students who presumed to study at Northeast Missouri State University. I've heard this personally from eyewitnesses. By the late 60s, though, people in Kirksville had moved beyond that. Now it's time to make progress on this new issue. An official policy of LGBT non-discrimination will send the right message. It will look good and will be good for business. This is not something to fear. This is something to support and celebrate. I urge the council to reconsider this issue and to come to a reasonable conclusion. Let's make Kirksville a great city that extends a welcome to all.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Maria Evans from here in the area. I work here at Boyce & Bynum Sheraton Labs, seated in Kirksville. I'm the medical director of 3 hospital laboratories, Northeast Regional, Sullivan County Hospital, and Scotland County Hospital. I'm a faculty member at KCOM. I was just sitting there trying to keep count. I believe I have taught about 600 allopathic medical students at MU and about 1,700 osteopathic medical students here in Kirksville. I've lived here for the second time since 2000. Matter of fact, I moved here in July of 2000. And I have loved Kirksville ever since this magic summer in 1977 when I came to Truman for a summer camp. And I think what I'd like to point out is a reflection, a window of how prospective medical students see us. A very common question I'm asked by medical students. They might say something like, well, I'm gay or lesbian, how will I be treated in this town? And a very common window they use is a website called Student Doctor Network. Student Doctor Network is made up of present medical students and medical student wannabes. And there's a survey about ATSU KCOM, and it includes some questions about the environment, and that would include the city of Kirksville. It asks questions like, is the environment supportive for underrepresented minorities? Is the environment supportive for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual students? Is the environment supportive for students with disabilities? Is the environment supportive for married students? Is the environment supportive for older, non-traditional students? It's scaled from 1 to 10. 10 means it's very, 0 means it's not. And when you look at that poll data, and this would include present medical students, former medical students who are now doctors, and medical students who want to come possibly to Kirksville, it shows some interesting data. It shows that this town is very supportive for married students. They give it a 9 out of 10. It's relatively supportive for older or non-traditional students. They give it a 7 out of 10. It's supportive for underrepresented minorities. They give it 9 out of 10. But there are 2 categories where they give it 5 out of 10. One is students with disabilities. The other one is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual students. About the only thing I can say in terms of people who say, I've never had this problem, I've never heard of this problem, is they've never been the person on the other side of a phone call when a student or a resident or an intern in this town has called me because they know I'm a safe person to talk to about their being gay in Kirksville. I've heard a lot of people crying on the phone. I've heard a lot of people afraid. And I think something we could do as this town to send a better message than 5 out of 10 is to have at least a policy in place that says if you are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, you are welcome here and you are protected here. I love this town. These have been 13 very happy years of my life in this town. And I want to extend that happiness to people who are thinking about coming here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Madison Chambers. I am a 20-year-old Kirksville resident. I'm a native Kirksvillian, believe it or not, I am 20. I was born at Grimsmith Hospital. My parents have worked at Truman State University for as long as I can remember. And my sisters and I, my two sisters and I, have probably been to school with your kids and grandkids or are going to school with your kids and grandkids. And my kindergarten class, believe it or not, again, was the last class to use Greenwood School and the first class to use primary school. So fun facts about my life. I'm also now a Truman student. And throughout my childhood and now into my very, very beginning stages of my adulthood, I'm seeing changes and have seen changes, very, very wonderful changes in the Kirksville community. But this is a change that I would like to see happen. I have friends, classmates, fellow employees, professors that I see being terrified of their futures here in Missouri. And that absolutely breaks my heart to see that happen. And this is a human right that is being threatened. I honestly have seen, not necessarily in the workplace, but in the Kirksville community in general, active discrimination against people just because they assume that they are part of the LGBTQ community. Not because they know for a fact, but because they just simply assume, and there is a lot of hate being thrown around. The fact that we could possibly change or possibly put forward something that could kind of control that, at least in a little bit of a controlled environment, would be so absolutely wonderful. How I kind of see the Anti-Discrimination Workplace Act right now is, right now what is in place is absolutely nothing. If, let's say, gay was another word for being 4'11" in height. Right now, someone could easily fire me from my jobs or not hire me or actively discriminate against me in the workplace just because I'm 4'11" and just because that makes them just the tiniest bit uncomfortable, or because it's against their religion. And that's how I kind of am seeing it right now, is something I cannot control. I can't make myself taller, like physically. I can wear heels, sure, but that won't change who I really am. And that's how I'm kind of seeing it right now, is people are wanting to change other people or wanting to hate on other people, even though they can't change something that they are. And yes, we are a small town. And that doesn't mean that we can't make a big change. That doesn't mean that we can't make some really good steps towards helping out Missouri in general. If we kickstart something here, surrounding areas, we'll start thinking, oh, this is a good idea. I like this. Okay, anti-discrimination. I like it. They will start following. They will they will, if we do start thinking about this again, chew on it a little bit, we will stand on the right side of history. I see this as becoming a very big movement in our U.S. history. I foresee this, and I really, really want us to stand on the right side of it. So please think of that.
And I spoke to you before when I was mentioning my 2 children, and I had asked you to please protect them both equally, and that didn't happen, and I'm hoping that it may in the near future. There's a few things I got a list here. I'm going to try to just hit each point briefly. First of all, when people say that LGBT people are not discriminated against, I would like you to note that you have not had an LGBT person come up here saying, I'm LGBT, I've never been discriminated against, I don't think you need this law. No, you have straight people telling you that LGBT people are not being discriminated against. And that's the same thing as a white person getting up and telling a black person, hey, you don't feel discrimination. Racial discrimination? What, are you kidding? No, you're not discriminated against. I mean, it's really the same thing. Also, I hear a lot of things. Dr. Evans talked about people calling her. I am in a position at Truman where I teach a course in LGBT psychology. So I have a lot of students. I taught it for the first time. Normal class would be 25. I had to close it at 51 because the rooms, they didn't have a room big enough for me. I'm also the faculty advisor for PRISM, so I talk to the LGBTQ kids on campus. They come to me when they have problems. When if someone says something to them in the community, they come to me. They don't go to some white guy who doesn't think that that LGBT people are discriminated against. Some straight guy, I meant to say. But maybe he's white too, or black. But I meant to say straight, excuse me. Okay, so, and then also I am the Northeast Missouri National Member Representative for PFLAG, Parents Corporation, organization, sorry. Parents, Friends, Family of Lesbians and Gays. And I take the hotline when people call the hotline that they get from the national organization. It rings to my personal cell phone. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And I get a lot of calls from prospective people want to come to Kirksville, and they call me because they figure they'll get an honest answer. Hey, PFLAG, what's it like being in Kirksville? Am I going to be safe? Are my kids going to be safe? And the kids themselves, they call me. They call me when they're having problems with legal issues. They don't go and complain to other people. They talk to me. We come around and we work with the laws and get their rights protected. So you're not going to hear from these people because they're afraid to come up and talk to you. They're afraid to out themselves. They don't have to worry about outing themselves when they're in an organization like PFLAG or PRISM. Okay, that's that. Next thing, businesses. It was mentioned that it might drive away businesses in Kirksville or prevent new businesses from coming. So yesterday I spent 3 hours looking up all the businesses I can think of off the top of my head. I could have used a phone book. That would have been a good idea. Off the top of my head, and Googled their policy. And I made a list I looked up 44 companies that are in Kirksville that are national companies that are here. 43 of the 44 already have LGBT, a non-discrimination policy, and more than half of them also protect for gender identity. So clearly those businesses are not going to leave. I mean, I sent you a letter, Mr. Russell, I don't think you got it because I sent an email yesterday, so I didn't have an email for you, but I think Mary has it. Walmart, Walgreens, Home Depot, Truman State, ATSU, Hy-Vee, Merritt's, Hilton, the banks, JCPenney, Tractor Supply. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So we're certainly not going to lose those businesses. And it also should give you an idea that the large corporations in this country are already ahead of us on this, and they already have it in place. So the big businesses already have it. So any large employer, someone was talking about like a company that might bring 400 jobs. Well, that would not be a little mom and pop grocery store. That's going to be a national corporation of some kind coming here. And they're not going to come here and say, oh my gosh, I can't discriminate against gays. I'm leaving. No. they're either going to have it in place already, or they're going to realize that, yeah, of course, this is the way America's going, and we shouldn't be discriminating against people anyway. Okay, and also the thing that surprised me the most was the city of Kirksville has a non-discrimination policy for sexual orientation. That just blew me away. The council is saying, as a group, we do not want to protect.
Ma'am, you're 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, that was fast.
The gay, lesbian, bi community in the same way the town itself protects its own employees, which sounds like a little bit of a contradiction. I just want to say two very quick things about some of the reasons this council gave for voting down the ordinance 2 weeks ago, since that was what you were on the record as saying this was what made the difference for you. My role as a biblical scholar, I do teach Judaism. I have studied the Bible for 20 years as a scholar, published repeatedly. Let me just say something quick on the issue of the religious message. This is everything that Jesus said about gays in the Bible. Nothing. What did Jesus really hate in the Bible? Hypocrisy. And who were his enemies? The Pharisees, the scribes, the Sanhedrin. And why? Because they used their religion as a weapon against others to make them look pious. I'll leave that for you to think about. Second, regarding other businesses, the idea that we can't pass laws because it would make people wonder what would happen if they broke the law, I don't think that is reasoning worthy the democratic civil body. Thank you.
And my plan was not to talk, so I won't be talking for 5 minutes. But my name is Bertha Thomas. I moved to Kirksville 21 years ago. I'm the Assistant Dean for Multicultural Affairs, and I too have grown to love this city. But I am a woman of a certain age who, when I was young, the laws stood in the way of my equality. The laws said that I was not a full citizen of this country, of many cities, of the states. And so even when I moved to Kirksville, it was important for me to look to see whether this would be a welcoming place for myself, for my family, to raise my 2 children. And you look at the laws to see if you are welcome. You look, some of this may just be symbolic. I do not expect, if you made a different decision than you did the other week, that there will be multitudes of people calling, wanting to, come before the commission saying that they are being mistreated. But just having the law on the books will tell people who sometimes don't feel like they are full citizens that they will be protected in spirit, protected in law, and welcomed into our community. So.
Thomas Brown, and that's hyphenated. I've lived here for quite a while, and my family, my father, my stepmother, have 8 siblings, which 6 of them live here. And I came from Columbia to a place that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know where Kirksville was. Couldn't tell you where it was on the map. And one of my fears when I came here as a 16-year-old kid was how are black people treated in that area. Because Northeast Missouri was not, from where I'm from, was not known to be a friendly area. Now, I believe with everything in me that a person should not be judged by their race, their creed, their sexual orientation, but by the content of their character. I work at a corporation called Kraft, who is handling this situation expertly. We can't even talk about certain things. If someone's in an earshot of what we say, they can turn us in. We can lose our job. I work with a bunch of people of a different sexual orientation. It doesn't come up. It's not an issue. I have an uncle who was beaten so bad in Columbia that he had to go to the hospital, and he was a gay man. Now, with all that said, I don't agree that this is a problem in our community. Or was the businesses named off? The businesses are handling it themselves. And so to put a law on the books, we equated, I'm kind of offended that's equated to the civil rights movement when I couldn't get through a door because of the color of my skin. No, it was no one's business on my sexual orientation. I'm a straight man. I don't go in there and talk about the things me and my wife do, so no one knows if I'm straight or gay at my job. And so it shouldn't be an issue to come up, because why is sexual orientation coming up in the workplace? I think that's a private matter that should be kept in private places. The same way with heterosexuality. I don't want to hear about anybody's sexuality. I'm going to my place to do my job or going to a place to get my education, and it's not about the orientation. So I don't see why, if this act goes into place, I'm not against gay people by any means, but I don't want it to be so open where everybody's flashing everything they do. That's beside the point. I don't want to deal with that. And so I think what you guys did was you stood and said this is a non-issue for Kirksville, Missouri. And when has Kirksville ever been a trendsetter? I mean, we live in Kirksville, Missouri. And so you said it's a non-issue here, and to support something that's a non-issue is going to begin to bring an issue to our city. The businesses are still coming. Craft's still here. Walmart's still here, and they have something in place. Everyone has one on the books other than the mom and pop joints that are here. And those are the businesses we're afraid of using or losing because they're here. So I would say, this is it's a non-issue. And no, it's not the same as the civil rights movement. It's not the same, because you can get through the doors even though you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or transsexual. You could not get through the door when you had a skin color because you see it a mile away. And I know that struggle very well. And it may have been years ago that it happened, but it still happens, it's still prevalent. But this is a non-issue.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I'm a fourth-year student at Truman. I'm 21 years old, and I have decided to spend this summer in Kirksville. I originally came from Joplin, Missouri, and throughout high school I participated in Key Club. For those who are unfamiliar with Key Club, it's a branch from Kiwanis International that extends to high schools, and it's a community service organization that pledges to serve our home, school, and community. In high school, I started valuing what it means to give back to my community, and it became and I wanted to become part of the town rather than just be a student or just be a resident. And then it's the same thing here in Kirksville and at Truman. I've been a student for 4 years and counting, and since then I've held numerous jobs for the sole purpose of giving back to my school. This summer I've taken on 3 jobs for the city of Kirksville in the hopes that I could really begin to give back and become part of Kirksville and really see what it means to be here while I'm here. Yet I seem to feel a barrier between my hard work and being accepted and protected by Kirksville. And as I thought about that, I started to realize that only one of my jobs protected against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And that is only so because the corporate level made that decision, not because the city of Kirksville endorsed it. My remaining 2 jobs allows me to give to my community for the time I'll be here, yet there's a possibility that I could be fired for being gay. My being gay is only one facet of my being, and it is kind of interesting that it can potentially cause a hindrance to my goals to work hard and give back to my community. As I mentioned, I'm from Joplin, and I witnessed the destruction of my hometown as a result of an EF5 tornado that hit. And I can tell you, I've never felt more community support than that. Moreover, when we pulled each other out of the rubble of our homes, nobody asked who was gay or who had different gender identities, because it didn't matter. Bigger issues were at our doorstep, and we all stepped up to help each other regardless of socioeconomic statuses, race, gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity. We were literally just people helping people. Now, it saddens me that it took the destruction of hundreds of homes, of 163 people's lives, of a third of the city that I call home, that has at least 50,000 people in it, in order for people to realize that we are just people helping people. And you've heard it countless times, not this week, but 2 weeks ago, Kirksville is progressive. We are already helping each other day to day. That is what we do. I've experienced so many times. So please let us allow each other to continue to help each other equally. I stand before you and ask that you please reconsider the non-discrimination ordinance and vote to pass the ordinance so we can all be closer as a community, because not only will we continue to help each other as we have, but we will also begin to protect each other. Thank you.
My name's Paul Kissick. Lived here in Kirksville for the last 12 years. I do want to say from the outset that I do try to be a Christian person. That being said, we love all people. However, I do reject the idea of trying to accept other values that I consider to be immoral. Now again, I would protect every single one of these people to the last breath. But we have to understand, and I do disagree with some of the professors here, we were talking about hypocrisy with the Pharisees. That was not the problem. It was the sin of hypocrisy. And again, the moral situation is what I'm most concerned about. Again, there are laws on the books already to protect us. My company does that. And like I said, I would protect those people. But I do support the council's decision on this. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Jashura. And I kind of want to piggyback on what Paul had just said and DeMarcus. This really saddens me. For weeks now, it saddens me. This has brought more division and has caused more harm to our city in the last few weeks than I have seen really anywhere. Social media and commentaries just slandering people's opinions and calling them names. Since the last city council agenda, I wanted to do my due diligence. So I did my research for hours to find what? There's no facts. This is not an issue right now within our city that I found. I could be wrong. But when I did my research, I found no facts stating that. There has been no allegations that's been brought to our court system. But yet we sit here and we're making this big issue that's causing so much division. If I could encourage the council to move on past this, this is already done. We've already said no. This is not an issue. I want to encourage you to hold firm in the decision that you made. Let's not fix something that's not broken. If you Google it, you're going to come up with all kinds of states that have lawsuits against them. I think this is opening up another avenue for that within our own town. I'm with Paul. I will fight for everybody around here. I don't believe in discrimination for it, for the cause that we're all up here. But it saddens me that everyone's fighting over this. Let's be over with it and let's move on. If we, Kirksville, it was said later that, Kirksville, it's where people make the difference. Really? Is it? Can we please have some honor? I may not agree with the lifestyles of many, but I will honor them and I will respect them and I will love them as the Bible does say to do. I'm appalled. Can we please act with respect and remain professional? And if this does become an issue, bring it back to the table. And then we'll bring religion into it. But this is not a religion debate. This is not an issue in our state, or in our city, excuse me, in which by which the state has legislation that's there for that. Please, let's all just move past this. This has caused more harm than what it's worth. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing the sign-in instead of giving your address, because the last time I stood up here 2 weeks ago and gave my address, I had a drive-by of college-age students that cussed out my children in the front yard while they were playing. And I was fearful to even stand up 2 weeks ago, and it took me almost the whole time that everything was going on that I stood up here to stand up for what I believe in and what I believe in for the city.
Please state your name
Tim Mills, I'm sorry. I thought I did that. I wrote it. I guess I thought I was speaking it. Yeah. And out of that, as given my freedom of speech to stand up and speak about something that I felt strongly about, basically I walked out with people following me to my car. You know, the drive-by and stuff. I mean, this isn't a good venue to be voicing opinions if you have to have fear to be able to speak. And I didn't see fear in the eyes of the LGBT community when I walked outside. But yet, here I am having fear. And yes, I am straight, but there shouldn't be fear about voicing your opinions. Many people got up to speak, and they shared with what is in their heart, what they believe strongly in. And it should be given that you guys make the decisions accordingly to this town and what's best for it. And I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago and this meeting and stuff, and I've heard many examples of the LGBT community and those that support the LGBT community on how great this town is, about the jobs that they have, about the jobs that they're going to have tomorrow when they go to work. And they talk about living in fear, but yet they don't talk about specific examples that they have themselves been discriminated against, about being bullied, about being abused, and those type of things in this town, in this community. You know, when I was younger, I was in high school, I was the youngest, shortest, smallest kid in my class, and I got bullied, I got beat up, I got thrown in a locker and the door slammed on me. And the thing is, they didn't make rights in this town to save the young or the short people and the ones that didn't weigh very much. Maybe like the 4'11" girl that came up here, you know. But the thing is things were taking action for those that caused those problems. And I grew to learn to deal with my size, and it didn't hinder me. It didn't keep me from doing things that I wanted to do. Even the military tried to discriminate, you could say, against me to join the military because I didn't weigh enough. And so I had to sign a waiver saying that if I got hurt in basic training, that I wouldn't sue the military. You know, and so I just recently seen a story in Iowa about a woman that was too attractive and got fired from her job. I guess now I need to be fearful because I'm a very attractive man. I may get fired tomorrow because I look too good. You know, the thing is there are things set up in the state to protect people. We have a Human Rights Commission for the state of Missouri. If someone feels that their human rights in the state of Missouri are against them, they have a formal complaint system with even legal issue or legal counsel and everything else to deal with those complaints. So what is being done here is a lot of stuff of an agenda to get gay rights in, to come against the state legislation of how the state views homosexuality. Marriage is only valid in the state if there is an actual license between a man and a woman. And that's it. They made it very clear. Now the thing is, if you go around to all the little cities and stuff and you start pushing and making a political stand in a location like Kirksville, Missouri, and putting all the pressure to make all these changes so that they have more clout to change the status of marriage in the state, that's wrong. That's not what the city council is for. This is for the city, for the people that live here, that have come from all over to live in this town and to live according to the values that they see is true. And I would go again and stand to say thank you for voting this down. This isn't about a civil rights issue. It's not about businesses and employment and public accommodations and housing and those type of things, because if anyone even here had those complaints, then they can go to the state.
That's 5 minutes.
Thank you.